All right, guys, it's time to get started. So if you're on Zoom, up to you whether or not your video is on. Just do make sure you are on mute, please. Welcome, Jessica. Welcome, Julia. And we will get started today, guys, in child's pose. So for those of you just joining, if you don't already know me, my name is Kayleigh. This is your all levels vinyasa. Up to you whether or not you use the playlist I shared. As always, modify as you need to. Don't worry about trying to look like me and postures. I will likely stop at some points in time and let you guys know to keep going so I can kind of check in on all of the medias. I'll let you know when to start the playlist. I typically don't start it until we get out of our first posture. So starting in your child's pose today, up to you what that child's pose shape looks like. I personally enjoy the hip opening, so big toes touching, knees as the mat is wide. If you prefer low back support, bring your knees to touch. Walking yourself forward, you'll bring your forehead to your mat. If you're not quite getting there, shift your body forward so you can. And then arms can stay elevated or elbows on the mat. If this is uncomfortable and your shoulders elevated, it's fine. If that's tight on your knees and you have a towel handy, you can put that towel underneath your knees for some padding. And then just start that full body scan here. Check in. Where do you feel tender, tight, sore? And as you find places to relax, to find some ease, really taking some big breaths in and out through your belly. This week I had a request for focusing on the low back. But of course, working on your low back isn't just your low back muscles. It's not just your lumbar spine. It's also your hips. It's also your glutes. It's your pelvis. So we'll have sort of a focus on strengthening areas that support your low back and then on relaxing and finding sort of active stretches. So let's just take a couple more big breaths here. And as you do so, start to think about filling the air up through your belly, up through your ribcage and up through your throat, creating that three-part breath. And as you exhale, thinking about empty out through your throat, through your ribcage, through your belly. So you're really starting to create a more expansive breath. You're finding just a little bit more air than you think you might have. And don't worry too much about whether or not that breath feels like it's totally filling you up. Taking just a couple more big, full rounds of breath. And at the base of this exhale, pull your belly button to your spine and totally empty out all of your air. And then take a big, deep inhale through your nose. And sigh it out through your mouth. Again, big, deep inhale. This time, keep your mouth closed. Exhale out your mouth, out your nose, ujjayi breath. And then start to wiggle your fingers, your toes. Rock your forehead side to side on the mat. You can shift your hips side to side on your heels, adding in just a little bit of a shimmy here, letting your low back release. And in the next couple of breaths or so, no rush, just working your way into a tabletop shape. Now, if you have sensitive knees, you can fold your mat over. You can also grab your towel or your blanket and put it under your knees for padding. We're not going to be here for a ton of time, but enough. And we'll start with cat-cow tilts, but we're going to do them a little bit differently than we normally do. So typically when we do cat-cow tilts, we're really just working on a sort of a passive extension and then flexion of the spine. Instead, today we're going to think a little bit about our glutes. So just start with a big inhale and let everything be nice and loose. So drop the belly, cow pose, lift the tailbone, drop the head back. Really passive activation here. And then on your exhale, tuck your chin, pull the low belly in, but at the top of your cat's breath, squeeze your glutes just a little bit so you feel that activation. And then let everything relax, let your glutes relax. Inhale, cow pose, head back, shoulders back. And again, exhale, cat, squeeze the glutes just that little bit, tuck the chin, pull the belly button in. And then again, everything is totally relaxed and loose. And exhale, just that extra little activation of the glutes at the bottom of your breath. Again, big inhale, cow. Big exhale, cat with that glute squeeze, and keep going here at your own pace, guys. So just enough activation to that glute squeeze that you sort of start to wake up those glutes. You start to go, oh, hey, look, I do actually have those muscles working here. And they're really important in that they have 3 layers, right? You have your gluteus minimus, which is right alongside your hip and then connects to the back of your pelvis. You have your medius that sort of is a bit bigger and wraps around that. And then your maximus, which is like that major part of your glute muscle. But your glutes are super integral to supporting your spine. So let's just take 2 more big rounds of breath. And then after that last exhale, start to find your neutral tabletop shape once more. From here, starting to find that core activation. So the next part of your body that really supports your low back is your abdominis, right? Your rectus abdominis, your transverse abdominis. So tucking just a little bit through your pelvis here, not quite arching through your spine, but nor are you rounding, right? Just finding that neutrality. That's a little squeeze through your pelvic floor. Now pull in your low belly and think about lifting it up. So you feel your rib cage kind of drop towards your belly button, and that front top part here of your abdominal wall is engaged. From here, we're just going to come down to our forearms. You can bring arms parallel if you want. You can interlace your fingers if you prefer. And then step your feet back to a forearm plank. Now be careful that you're not here, right? Walk your feet back. Make sure the spine is in a long line. If forearm plank is a lot, take your knees. Again, make sure there's no curve in that spine. You're keeping the tailbone tucked. Nice long spine here. And make sure you are breathing. Big inhales through your nose and out through your nose. So we're going to hang out here for just long enough that you feel your core start to wake up. Be careful that you don't start to sink into that low back though. So a little squeeze through your inner thighs. We talked about adductors last week. And really thinking actively about pulling the belly button in. Feel free to keep your gaze about at your thumb levels in front of you so your neck isn't too tight. I'm starting to shake, so that's probably a good sign it's about time to move on. Big inhale. Exhale, everybody lower down to your knees first, and then slowly lower all the way down to your bellies, drawing your hands underneath your shoulders. Spreading out through your fingertips, trying to bring the tops of your fingers towards the tops of your shoulders. It's okay if they're a little further forward if that's just hard on your back. Press the big toes into the floor, about hips distance apart. Roll the shoulders away from your ears. Exhale your air out first. And inhale, cobra pose. And exhale, release. Again, inhale, cobra, just that baby cobra. Maybe even lifting your hands, right? So keeping it up in that upper part of your spine. You're going to feel your low back activate, of course. And exhale, release. Third one, inhale, cobra. Exhale to release. Now from here, bring your knees in just a little bit closer. Keep the tops of the feet on the floor, but from here, tuck the pelvis, right? So you're pressing your low back or your tailbone towards your heels. Squeeze in through your low belly. So you're pulling your low belly up so much it feels like it's lifting off the floor. Roll the shoulders back, plug into all 10 fingertips. Lift to a chaturanga, a half push-up from your knees. Right, feel that activation through your core. If you feel like you're sinking into your low back, tuck through your tailbone. Lift to your plank. Curl your toes. Down dog. And feel free to pedal at your feet. You're welcome to shake the head, yes and no. Starting to settle into your down dog shape. I'm going to come to my knees so I can check in on you on Zoom. Of course, if down dog is too much, tabletop, right? Totally an option. It is always going to give you great support. For those of you in down dog, just take that moment, look at your feet. Hips distance, not max distance, right? It's about an iPhone-ish, right? iPhones have sort of changed sizes, I realize. Do relax through your shoulders. And now again, find your glutes. Don't squeeze them to death, right? Like they're going to be working here no matter what. But using your inner thighs, press your femurs backwards. Lift your booty high with that extra little bitty squeeze through your glutes. And then relax through your shoulders and your elbows and pull your low belly in. So you really actively here are using your muscles of your low body to support this shape. That way, very little weight is in your hands, even so much so that you might even be able to kind of tent to your fingertips and come back down without it feeling like too much work. Eventually. I know that down dog is still work for most of us for quite a bit. Let's take another big full round of breath. Without shifting forward, Inhale, look to your hands, bend your knees, stomach to your thighs. Just step your feet forward one at a time, forward fold. Feet are hips distance. Do feel free to measure that with your 2 fists. Bend your knees a lot. Let your head be nice and loose. And ragdoll pose. You can grab opposite elbow with opposite hand if you want. As you roll the weight forward into your toes, making sure that you have a little bit of sort of mobility here. You're not just locking out knees. And then up to you if you want this to be active or passive. So if you want to shake side to side, feel free. You can wiggle your head, yes and no. Maybe make some faces at your thighs. You can kind of shimmy your hips around. Anything that feels good. Shoulder stretches here are welcome if you want them. If you just want to be still, be still. Let's just do 2 more big breaths. And gently release fingertips to the mat if they are not there already. On your inhale, find your flat back, half lift, hands to your shins. Roll the shoulders away from your ears, lengthening through your spine, L shape. Exhale to fold. Bend through your knees. Inhale, slow roll to rise, 1 vertebra at a time. And then standing tall at the top of your mat in Tadasana, mountain pose. You have a couple options here. Your feet can stay hips distance, totally fine. Feet can come to touch. Whatever makes you feel more stable, whatever you might have been trained in is fine. Arms are down by your sides. Stand tall. So just like we did earlier, find that activation here through your spine. So tuck the tailbone under, so you have neutral posture. Pull in the low belly. Think about lifting up so you're pulling in through your upper abdominal wall, and then plug into your big toes. Lift up through your kneecaps so your quads are engaged. You'll notice a little squeeze through your glutes, but like don't death grip, right? Like they're gonna work no matter what. As your shoulders relax, close your eyes. From here, let's find that Ujjayi breath. So big inhales through your nose. Exhale out your nose. Breathing like this throughout your practice. Ujjayi is your victorious breath. It's a heating breath. So if you like me, you're in a cold basement, it'll be very nice. It'll help you find that extra fire, tapas in Sanskrit. Let's do 1 more big breath. And coming into our sun salutation A, Surya Namaskara A. I'll scooch forward here. On your inhale, circle the arms up above the head. I'm going to have to cactus because of my ceiling, but feel free to extend all the way. And exhale, draw your hands to heart center Namaskara. Again, inhale to reach the arms up. You're welcome to bring palms to press if that's comfortable for your shoulders. On your exhale, draw your hands through heart center. Bend your knees a little as you fold forward. Bring your belly to your thighs. All 10 fingertips to the mat. Inhale to your flat back, half lift. Exhale, fold forward, plant your hands, step back to your push-up, your plank shape. And pause, please. Now we're going to take we're going to modify, or rather take a different variation of Chaturanga Vinyasa throughout our practice today. It'll be very familiar to what we did at the beginning of class. I'll let you know, though, after we've done our first couple ones, when you're welcome to take other variations if you prefer. Our first one, let's all lower down to our knees. Again, make sure you're in a knee-down plank. You're not arching your spine. You're not in a tabletop. Look forward. Roll the shoulders back. Inhale. Exhale. Hug your elbows to your inner elbows face forward as you lower all the way down to your bellies. Feet are hips distance. Plant through your big toes. Knees lift. Inhale, cobra. Roll the shoulders back. Exhale to release. Again, keeping your knees down. Pull in that low belly. Roll the shoulders back. Inhale, Chaturanga. Exhale, plank. Curl your toes. Inhale, downward facing dog. Exhale, in your down dog. Inhale, look forward to your hands. Don't shift forward. Bend your knees. Step the feet forward. Maybe opposite foot steps forward. Forward fold. Inhale, flat back. Exhale, fold forward. This time, inhale, reverse swan dive to stand. Come up with that straight spine. Reach the arms above the head, maybe palms press. Exhale, hands to heart center, namaskara. Again, inhale, circle the arms up. You can look up. You can even gently back bend, squeezing the glutes a little bit. Exhale, hands through heart center, bend your knees, forward fold, all 10 fingers to the mat. Inhale, flat back, half lift, Ardha Uttanasana. Exhale, forward fold, Uttanasana, plant your hands, step back, plank pose. Big inhale in your plank, optional to take the plank on your knees. Exhale, slow lower down to your bellies, look forward, hug the elbows in. Untuck the toes, inhale, cobra. Feel free to put a little weight in the hands this time if you like. Exhale, release. Optional to curl toes, lift knees. Optional to stay on the knees, pull the belly in. Inhale, chaturanga. Exhale, plank. Inhale, down dog. Exhale, in your shape. Hold here for 3 breaths. I'm going to lower down so I can talk to y'all. So that is our Chaturanga Vinyasa variation today. It is optional. You can always skip it. Really here, the focus is working on building that muscular support for your low back so you can find release and give it some more support throughout your day, especially if you, like me, spend a lot of time working at a computer. Feel free to do your traditional Chaturanga Vinyasa if you prefer. Let's do one more big breath here. Again, without shifting forward, bend your knees. Inhale, look forward. Exhale, step, or you can try to hop your feet forward. Forward fold. Inhale, flat back, half lift, Ardha Uttanasana. Exhale, forward fold, Uttanasana. And wiggling your feet to touch, big toes together, knees together. You can separate the heels a smidge. Inhale, chair pose, Utkatasana. Bend your knees. Now you always have the option here of reaching forward if that's better for your balance. You have the option of cactusing your arms if that's better for your shoulders. Hands can be at heart if your shoulders need a break. Look down, can you see your toes? Roll right into your heels. Squeeze to that center line. And just notice, we have a tendency to lean forward here to try to catch our balance. Can you pull the chest back without sticking your booty out, keeping that pelvic floor tucked, just to keep the low back safe? Maybe you can sit a little bit lower, find your quads. I need to reach forward for my balance here. And big, full, deep breaths in through the nose, out through the nose. Let's do 2 more. For this last one, can you sit a little bit lower? Inhale. Exhale, fold. Inhale, flat back. Exhale, fold forward. Now here, pause. This is where you might want blocks or block alternatives. Again, I have 2 mason jars here as a demonstration. Just to plant both hands on, you're going to plant down through your right foot. Dig into your right big toe, and then transfer your weight to your right so you can start to kind of hover that left foot off the mat. On your inhale, extend that leg long behind you, flexing through your foot, supported L shape. Now, of course, I do this a lot, guys. My leg comes up parallel to my hip. If yours doesn't, it's here. Perfect. But really squeeze through your inner thighs, plug into your right big toe. I'm actually going to walk my jars forward so I have better support. And then lengthen your spine forward so you're trying to bring the body parallel-ish to the mat. If you've got short jars, right, not going to be quite there. Lift up through that low belly, and then just be careful you're not opening up the hip, right? You're keeping it square to the floor. Take an inhale. Exhale, slight bend in your right knee. You're going to gently step that left foot back into a lunge. You'll notice my right knee's in front of my right ankle, so I'm going to walk the jars back and just wiggle my foot forward, mostly so I just have better support for my body. Then lower down to your left knee. Optional to keep toes tucked or untucked, up to you. And then if you're on jars or blocks, hands stay there. If you're on your fingertips, press into fingertips. But push your heart forward, and even though it's going to be very hard to get your stomach literally off your thigh, pull the low belly in and press the left hip forwards to give your spine some more support. Take an inhale, lift forward. On your exhale, half split, I'm going to walk the jars back as I straighten my right leg, flex my right toes back towards my face. You can also keep arms forward if that's accessible and feels comfortable to you. Inhale, back to that knee down low lunge. Exhale, half split. Last time, inhale. Exhale. Inhale back to your low lunge. Moving any props you're using off to the sides of your mat. Plant your hands, curl left toe, lift left knee. Step right foot back to your left foot plank. Inhale from plank on toes or knees. Exhale, slow lower to your bellies. Inhale, cobra pose. Keep your pelvis down. Roll the shoulders back. Exhale, release. Plant hands, optional from knees or toes. Pull the low belly in. Roll the shoulders back. Look forward. Chaturanga, lift up halfway. Plank pose. Downward facing dog. Lift your hips. Big full round of breath here. Inhale, look forward. Bend your knees, stomach to your thighs. Now again, you can step or hop, but keep those hips high. Keep looking forward as you do so. Equal weight in both hands. Forward fold. Inhale, flat back, half lift, Ardha Uttanasana. Exhale, forward fold, Uttanasana. Feet together, chair pose. Inhale, sink your hips. Exhale, forward fold, Uttanasana. Inhale, flat back, half lift, Ardha Uttanasana. Exhale, forward fold, Uttanasana. Again, optional to find your block alternatives or block. Plant down through your left foot this time. Straighten out through that leg. Small bend is okay. Big bend is going to start to give you some trouble. Plug into the left big toe, so much so that you start to lift that right foot to hover, and you can kind of shimmy it back and forth. And then on your next inhale, right thigh up parallel to the floor. Press through that heel like you're trying to kick the wall behind you. Square that right hip down. Again, so you're not opening up through the hip. You're keeping the pelvis square to the floor below you. Instead of looking straight down, look in front of yourself so you can keep your spine long. Roll the shoulders away from your ears and really pull in through your low belly. I know this seems like it's all about your low body, but that low belly, that abdominal wall is what's going to help support your spine here and help you find balance. Big inhale. Exhale, small bend in that left knee. Step the right foot back. If you need to, shimmy that left foot forward, totally fine. Press the right hip forward, the heart forward. Lower down to right knee. Toes touched, toes untouched, up to you. Press into fingertips or your mason jars or your blocks. Inhale, heart forward. Exhale, half split, straighten that front leg. You can wiggle the foot forward a bit if you need to. You'll notice my knee's still bent because I'm pretty tight today. Inhale, forward. Exhale, back. Last time, inhale. Exhale. Inhale, forward. Move any props off to the side. Plant hands, curl right toes, lift the right knee, step back plank. Inhale in your plank. Exhale from knees or toes, lower down to your bellies. Inhale, cobra or extended cobra, but keep the pelvis down. Exhale, release. From knees or toes, low belly in. Inhale, chaturanga, hug those elbows to your ribs. Lift up to your plank. Curl your toes, down dog. Or if it's better for you, tabletop is an option. If it's better for you, you can always hang out for 2 breaths in child's pose if you need it. Again, without shifting forward, inhale, look forward, bend your knees. Exhale, step or hop your feet to the top of your mat. Forward fold, Uttanasana. Inhale, flat back, half lift, Ardha Uttanasana. Exhale, fold forward. Feet together, chair pose, inhale. Exhale, fold. Inhale, half lift. Exhale, fold. Plant the hands, walk them a little bit in front of you. Plant them through your right big toe. Inhale, left leg long. Find that supported L, heart forward. If you're ready to do some extra work here, you can pulse your heel here for 3, for 2, for 1. Slight bend in that right knee. Step the left foot back. Wiggle the right foot forward if you need to. Lower down to left knee. Inhale, heart forward. Exhale, half split. Inhale, forward. Exhale, back. Inhale, forward. Exhale, back. Inhale, forward. Exhale, curl those back toes. Lift the back knee. Step back, plank pose. Inhale, plank. Exhale, slow lower to your bellies. Hug the elbows to your ribs. Untuck your toes. Inhale, cobra. Exhale, release. Curl toes, either from knees or toes. Find your chaturanga. Lift up halfway. Find your plank. Lift your hips. Downward facing dog. Adho Mukha Svanasana. Big full round of breath. Don't shift forward. Keep yourself in your down dog. Just bend the knees. Inhale, look to your hands. Now step or hop your feet to the top of your mat. Forward fold. Inhale, flat back. Exhale to fold. Feet touch, chair pose. Inhale. Exhale, fold. Inhale, flat back. Exhale, fold. Walk your hands forward. Grab your props if you need them. Plant down through your left foot. Inhale, right leg up, thigh parallel to the floor. Optional to pulse your heel here for 3, for 2, for 1. Slight bend in that left knee. Step that right foot back. Press the heart forward, lower down to the right knee. Inhale. Exhale, half split. Inhale forward. Exhale back. Last time, inhale. Exhale. Inhale forward. Exhale, lift that back knee, plant the hands, step to your push-up shape from knees or toes. Inhale. Exhale, down to your bellies. Feet down, hips down, cobra. Inhale. Exhale, release. Plant hands from knees or toes. Find your chaturanga. Lift a plank. Lift your hips. Adho Mukha Svanasana, downward facing dog. Take a big, full, deep inhale through your nose. Out through your mouth. Again, inhale through your nose. Out through your mouth. And lower down to your knees, child's pose, take rest. Feel free to rock your forehead side to side. If child's pose isn't okay, you can take a seat. That's another option available to you. Let's do this one more big round of breath. And then I'm going to give you a couple options. First option, just stand up and fold forward so that you have your fingertips on the mat. Second option, take a Chaturanga Vinyasa and then make your way to a forward fold from down dog. Whichever you prefer, I'll just meet you in a forward fold so I can breathe. Try to get there in the next breath or two. Feel free to take a sip of water along the way. If you're hanging out in forward fold, make it active, right? So roll the weight forward. Maybe grab opposite elbows. You can kind of shimmy again if that feels good. Couple big breaths. Awesome. Inhale, flat back, half lift, Ardha Uttanasana. Exhale, forward fold, Uttanasana. From here, bend your knees a lot. Stomach to your thighs. We're going to come into gorilla pose, walking up onto our palms. So bring the backs of your hands down, and you're going to slide them underneath your feet so your toes come to your wrists. And if you're not quite there, that is totally fine. It's okay if you're kind of here. But the more you bend your knees, the easier this will be. And then let your weight roll forward enough that you might even kind of be able to kind of pick up your heel a little bit. Just let your head hang heavy. You can wiggle your toes if that feels good. If you want more hamstrings, you can start to lift through the hips a little bit. Find a little bit more length through the low body. Only if you want. 2 more big breaths. And then gently release that grip. Hanging out here in your forward fold, we are going to work on crow pose. So today, if you were new to crow and you are just working on finding the basic shape, I'll tell you where you can stay and just do your work. If you know where you're going, go forth. I'm actually going to move this way so you can see more of me. So for those of you who are new to crow, feet together, bend your knees until you can bring your hands flat on the floor. Once you get to a place where you can bring your hands flat on the floor, even if it's pretty far in front of you, come up high into the balls of your feet so your heels lift off the floor, and bring your knees as wide as your elbows are wide. From here, one knee to the outside of your arm, other knee to the outside of your arm. And for some of you, that will look like this from the side-ish. You might be more out here, that's fine. This might be where you stay. This is going to be hard work already. It feels very weird, right? Like we don't normally do that. So you might just stay here and look forward and lean as far forward as feels okay for you. If you're coming into your crow pose, once your knees are outside of your arms, you're going to look forward, hug your elbows towards each other, belly in, lean forward, and just try to bring one foot up at a time. So I'm going to bring my left heel up, squeeze it to my booty, lean forward a little. Then I'll put it down and switch. Do that right heel to the booty. Lean forward. Keep both of my knees on my arms. If you're feeling pretty good in that shape, you might start to lean a little further forward. When one foot comes up, you'll start to bring that other foot up to meet it. This shirt is the wrong shirt to wear right now. When you get both heels up, squeeze into your bum. But again, if you're like, I'm not there yet today, Kayleigh, that seems like a lot more than I want to do. Hands down, knees to the outer arms, stand the balls of your feet, lean forward and breathe. Just like 3 big breaths at a time, and then take rest. We're going to play here for a moment or two so I can kind of check in with you on Zoom as well. So give it a few tries. If you're not having it, you can always just take a seat instead and do bound angle, pads of the feet to touch, hands on your ankles, spine rounds. Remember to look forward, not down. It will help you lift up in lieu of falling onto your nose. Let's do like 1 or 2 more good college tries, guys. If you're like, I don't want a child's pose, take rest. The fall is where you find the hang time though, right? So you start to fall and then all of a sudden you're like, oh, I'm there. And then you're on your nose. But you know, you're very close to the floor. All right, guys. Let's take like 2 breaths in child's pose. Let that go. Rock your forehead side to side. You might make some fists, twist out your wrist one way and switch. And then slowly walk your hands in. So you're sitting your hips on your heels. And however you can comfortably stand up, right? We'll come into a forward fold. And this is where you might want a towel or a block or a blanket or something you can sit on. We'll bring the heels out, or the toes out, the heels in. So you're, for those of you who used to dance, right, you're like not quite in a second position. And your first option, guys, is just a sumo squat. You'll bend the knees, elbows to your thighs. So if you have sensitive knees, this is still some hip opening right here. You might just chill out. If it feels okay, you could even bring your hands to your thighs and just gently press them back so you get some inner thigh opening. If it feels okay for you, bring your elbows inside your knees, palms pressed, and just start to sink your hips. I have to widen my feet a little bit so I can get all the way down. Now, if this feels okay but not great, grab your whatever, fold it up as much as you can, and sit on it, right? So I'm going to squish mine here so that it is just about the right height. Don't do this though. Keep it active. Chest up, tailbone down. I'm actually going to move this so I'm not sinking back too much. And the more you press your elbows into your knees, 1, the easier it'll be to lift your chest, 2, the more hip opening you'll get. But if that's a little bit much, feel free to ease off as you need to. If you're on the balls of your feet, that's totally fine, guys. Let's just take a couple big breaths. If it feels good to shimmy like I'm shimmying, feel free. If that hurts, don't do it. And then from here, we're just going to start to straighten the legs until you can bring the fingertips to the floor. Pivot on your heels so all 10 toes face forward. Now we're just going to come into some stretching, but I'm going to give you an optional way of coming into that stretch that gives you a little bit more of a challenge. But again, optional, never required. So if you're interested in the challenge, well, first, everybody walk your hands over to your right foot. And start to plant down into your right big toe so much so that you can come onto the ball of your left foot. Now your option 1, guys, if you're not interested in the challenge, you're just going to slowly draw your toes back until you can come back to your supported L. If you want a challenge, plant through your fingertips, pull on your low belly, squeeze through your left glute, and as you plug into the right big toe, can you bring that left thigh up parallel-ish to the floor? And if you're like, nope, that's totally fine. If you're giving that a shot, just come up enough that you're like, oh, hey, that happened, and then find your supported L. Yeah, right. So we're using that glute, we're using the low belly to find the shape. Just take a big inhale. On your exhale, bend your right knee, bend your left knee so it comes right behind it like you're doing a pistol or like you're squatting, right? Knee to knee. But then to start to lower that left shin all the way down to the floor, walk your fingers back, maybe with those jars underneath your hands or whatever you've got. Sit down. And if it's less than graceful, cool. For those of you who are like, where did I just end up? We are working on our Adho Matsyendrasana, half Lord of the Fishes. So left leg is underneath the right. If you didn't quite get there, left foot is over the right knee, or rather right foot crosses over the left knee. Optional to straighten your bottom leg. And it might just be easier to do this first and then bend the knee. This is a good option if you find that trying to sit down with your legs crossed is a little bit rocking side to side. Even if your foot's a little further forward, better to walk your foot forward than it is to be on the pinky toe side of your foot, because now you're just sort of passively in your hip flexors in lieu of plugging into your toe and using your hamstring or quad here. Let me rotate. From here, right hand plants down on the floor behind you. I like mine pretty close, but do feel free to bring it further away. But you're not here, right? You're here. Inhale the left arm up. Exhale, left elbow outside of your right knee. Option to figure four it. Option to straighten the arm like in Hot 26. Grab your bottom knee. Optional if this feels like too much either way. Take your left elbow, wrap it around your right knee like you're just giving yourself a hug. Sitting up nice and tall. Use your inhales to roll forward into the front of your sits bones without lifting your booty. Use your exhales to twist. Optional if it's more comfortable, if it's more accessible to you, to just look forward. Optional to look back over your back shoulder if that's okay on your neck. Last big inhale. Last big exhale. Trying to remember how I thought we were going to get to our next posture. Not really sure how I thought we were going to get there. So, from here. Sometimes I have these really big ideas and they just seem to be a little crazy. So go ahead and extend that bottom leg out straight. Bring your right leg with it. Extend both legs out long in front of you. If your hips feel tight, actually take a moment to bring feet flat and windshield wiper. Totally an option. From here, if you have a blanket or something to sit on handy, you're welcome to grab it if you want to and just sit on it for a moment. And then from here, we'll bring the legs out wide into as wide as a V is comfortable for you. Coming into a wide-legged forward fold, a seated wide-legged forward fold setup. Now you can't see my feet, so I'm gonna bring my foot forward. Toes are flexed, toes pull back towards your kneecap. It's okay if your foot externally rotates a little bit, a lot, and you're starting to get into your knee. Don't let it rotate in. That's really putting a lot of pressure on your hip flexor, right? So pretty neutral. Optional, if sitting like this makes you feel kind of hunchy, fingertips on the floor behind you, press into your fingertips, just keep the spine long. That's option one. Option two, hands in front of you, walk yourself forward. Start with a straight spine though, so instead of collapsing, roll those shoulders back, lift the chest. If you can pancake and walk all the way forward and sandwich yourself on the floor, go forth. If this is a lot for you, come back to your fingertips. We're gonna start active for just a few rounds of breath, and you should really feel a stretch here in your low back, and it might be a subtle stretch. And if that's the case, you have your hands behind you, press forward a bit more, but roll the shoulders back. And then let's make it passive, so go ahead and walk your hands forward if they're not there. Tuck your chin, let your spine round. If you're pancaked, the passive is irrelevant, you're already pancaked, right? If you can come to elbows, cool. If you can't, just let your chin tuck. Let's do like two more big breaths. Last one. And slowly walk yourself back up. From here, bend your knees. Hands underneath your knees, just slide the legs back in. Feet flat first. Optional to bring your hands behind you, windshield wiper. Optional just to make your way straight to a plank. But up to you guys. If you want to take a Chaturanga Vinyasa or our variation of Chaturanga Vinyasa, do so. Otherwise, just meet me in your down dog. In down dog, big open mouth, exhale. Inhale through your nose. Out through your mouth. Bend your knees. Don't shift forward, just look forward, step forward or hop. Forward fold. Inhale, flat back, half lift. Exhale to fold. From here again, walk your feet as wide as the mat is wide. This time we will just stay with toes forward and walk your hands to the left. Now again, option one, just lean to the left so much you come onto the ball of your foot and scoot that right leg back until you can lift it up. Option two, plug into the left big toe, pull in the low belly. Maybe you can lean to the left and start to lift that right leg up, parallel-ish. And then as you're ready, carefully, slowly rotate that leg back until it's square. Come into your supported L. Maybe you've got those blocks or jars underneath your hands. Always, always an option. Big, deep inhale here. Lengthen through your spine. I'll turn to the side this time to see it from the side view. On your exhale, bring your right knee right behind your left knee. Bend that left knee. With your knee still on your leg, to start to bend enough, you can bring the top of the right foot to the floor. Walk your fingers back so you can slowly, and if you sit on your heel, perfect, just move just a little bit to the right. And again, if you're like, Kayleigh, how did you do that? Take a seat, straighten your right leg, cross that left leg over, foot can come forward so it's flat if that's gonna be more accessible. It can slide back. And if you want to, this leg stays straight. This is a great way to give yourself stability for your pelvis. If both sits bones stay down, you can bend. Totally up to you. Now this time, left hand comes behind you, as close or as far from you as you want it to be. But if it's really far, don't lean back. Try to keep your weight pretty forward of your sits bones. Inhale the right arm up. Exhale, right elbow outside of your left knee, and twist. Option 1 is like this. Option 2, you can straighten your arm, grab your knee, Hot 26 style. Option 3, wrap your elbow around your knee, hug the thigh in. This actually helps me sit taller. You might find it comfortable. It's also just a great way to support the spine if this is a lot in your chest and your shoulders. Optional to look forward to the side or back, whatever's best on your neck. But make sure you're not holding your breath. So big inhales through your nose and out through your nose. Let's do 2 more big breaths. Last one. Slowly unwind forward. Again, straighten that bottom leg first. Optional to keep both feet flat and windshield wiper. Optional just to straighten your legs. Whatever's going to feel more accessible to you is great. From here, we'll do just one more hip opening stretch and then we will get onto our back. So go ahead and bring your feet in. So the pinky toe sides of your feet are on the floor, setting up for bound angle or sometimes called butterfly. Pads of the feet touch. Kind of up to you here how active or passive you want the stretch. So the closer the heels are to your sits bones, the more active. The further, the more passive. And for me, it really comes down to how do my hips feel that day. Today they're kind of tight, so I'm actually going to bring my hip feet a little further away from me. Hands are in the inside arches of your feet like you're opening up a book. Don't squeeze them though, right? Nice gentle grip. Take an inhale, lift the chest. And same thing as our first stretch. Let's first make it really active. So keep the spine straight, wrap the elbows in, and bend forward as far as you can without rounding. So from the side, it doesn't really take long for me to round personally, so you'll notice this is about as far as I can go before I'm here. Looking forward, taking some big breaths. If you want some more stretch here to make it more active, use your inner thigh muscles. So my knees would normally kind of be here. My inner thigh muscles can encourage my knees about here. Big breaths. And then let's make it totally passive. So take a big inhale here. And exhale, tuck your chin round. Let the shoulders totally relax. I actually recommend no longer using your inner thigh muscles to open up the knees. Let them pop back up a little bit. If you have a block or something similar, you could always rest your forehead on it here if that feels comfortable for you. On your next inhale, lift your gaze. Exhale, hands to the outside of your knees. Gently push the knees together. From here, feet hips distance. Optional to bring the hands behind you and windshield wiper. If you find that's pretty superfluous, don't do it. Now from here, we're going to make our way onto our backs and do a little bit more work before we find our Shavasana. If you want a sip of water though, take a sip of water. If you want something like a blanket to have handy when you come into Shavasana, bring your blanket to the side of your mat. And then whenever you're ready, optional to bring your hands to the backs of your thighs and slowly release down onto your backs. Optional to add in a little bit more core work here if you want it. And reach the arms forward, lift through the chest, pull the belly in, and you'll slowly start to lean back without your toes lifting until you start to feel your core fire. You're also welcome to straighten the legs out long on the floor. That's going to give you better support. It's also going to mean you have a little bit more core strength if you do. Maybe if you're doing the core work, you lean back more. If you don't want core work, don't do it. Just lie down. Maybe a little bit more. There we go. Now I'm shaking. I did a lot of core work yesterday, so it's just that I have a little bit of that muscle memory built up. One more big breath. And then slowly, 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 just recline all the way down. From here, bring your feet flat on the floor, knees face the ceiling. We are going to do a couple rounds of back bending. Now, for those of you who are not interested in doing really active back bends today, we'll start with bridge. You can do 2 bridges. For those of you who want to do 2 wheels, I'll talk you through it the second time, but if you know where you're going, go forth on the first, up to you. From here, feet are hips distance. You might use your fingertips to try to tap your heels. If you can't find your heels, it's okay, as long as you can tell that your knees aren't together, your toes aren't together, probably pretty sturdy. Just make sure your feet aren't on the edges of your mat. Plug into your big toes, arms are down by your sides. Now tuck your pelvis under so you push your low back into the floor or close to it. A little squeeze through your glutes, a little squeeze through your inner thighs so your knees aren't opening or closing. And then from here, lift your hips off the mat. This might be plenty, you might stay. You're welcome to wiggle the shoulders a bit closer here. You're welcome to interlace your fingers underneath your tailbone and press the pinky edges of your hands into the mat. Don't look side to side, just keep your gaze at the ceiling. If you need to stop, watch me first and then come into this pose, that's okay. But as you plug into your toes, notice your knees want to knock out. Don't let them. Keep them hips distance. If you want a little bit more lift, squeeze your glutes a smidge, push the hips forward a little bit more. That'll also stretch the front of your hips just a little bit more. Big breath. Let's do one more. If you have that grip under your tailbone, separate the hands. From here, tuck the tailbone under so you're no longer arching the spine, and slowly lower to your low back. I recommend that you walk your feet mat's distance and let your knees knock into touch. I'll show you what that looks like from the front. Just like that. Just give your body a little bit here to support the spine. There we go. All right, so for option 2 or round 2, you have the option of doing that again, or you have the option of doing a full wheel. If you are not totally sure what full wheel looks like, I will demonstrate it, and I recommend, if it's not familiar to you, watch me do it first, and then I'll let you know when to come up and join. If you're feeling pretty good, you're ready to go, you can do it with me. If you don't want to, do bridge again, right? So same thing, just lifting through the hips. If you're coming into your wheel, you're going to bring the hands by your shoulders. You'll notice I'm moving my hair out of the way first. Palms are flat. Fingers face your shoulders, thumbs are by your ears. From here, you'll tuck the tailbone under again, so you're pressing your low back into the mat. Without bringing your knees to touch, take an inhale. And exhale, press into your hands and your feet. Lift your chest up towards the ceiling. I prefer to avoid the top of my head. That can be a lot of pressure on your neck. With the hands flat on the floor, you'll roll the shoulders back and push the mat away. Don't look forward, let your head hang. Plug into your big toes, and if that's plenty, stay. If that feels okay, press into your feet so you start to straighten through the legs and press the chest forward. If you're pretty used to these back bends, you can also pulse a little bit. So if you haven't come up yet and you want to, go ahead and join me. If you're in bridge, that is great. Feel free to do bridge. If you're coming up, stay there. I'm going to come down so I can check in with y'all. And when you have done enough wheel pose, tuck your chin to your throat. Slowly lower down to your shoulders first, and then roll all the way onto your low back. If you're in bridge, just release any grips, lower down to your low back. Same thing, feet as wide as the mat is wide, knees knock into touch. Tucking that pelvis under, pushing the low back into the mat. Take 2 big breaths. Last one. And then bring the feet hips distance, windshield wiper your knees side to side. As you come to stillness, bring both of your knees into your chest. If that feels like a lot on your low back, keep it gentle. Maybe your hands come to your shins. Maybe you just bring your arms down by your sides. If you're feeling pretty ready for a stretch, bring your knees into your chest pretty dramatically. Give yourself a big hug, rock side to side. And then we'll come into wind removing pose. So keep your right knee in. Extend that left leg. Well, option 1, Left foot flat. Option 2, left leg long on the floor. Be careful of your mason jars if you have them. And then pull your right knee to your right shoulder for just a moment that you feel that external rotation through your hip. Take a big inhale. Then exhale, bring that right leg across the body to the left. You'll just straighten that left leg if you started with it flat. Try your best to keep both shoulders down. So notice your right shoulder wants to come with you. Don't let it. Press it into the mat. Left hand can stay on that outside of your right knee. Optional to cactus the right arm or tee it out to your parallel to your shoulder. You can look up at the ceiling or maybe over that right arm. Don't worry about how far that left leg comes. You'll notice mine's not coming very far today. More important to keep both shoulders down so the back of your neck isn't taking any of this motion. Rotation happens through the part of the spine that supports your rib cage or thoracic spine. So best to keep it where it's made to twist, right? Big breaths. Last one. And slowly unwind back to center. Right knee in, bring the left knee in to meet it. Again, if it feels good to rock side to side, to wiggle it out, wiggle it out. Then keep that left knee in. Option 1, right foot flat. Option 2, right leg extends. Heel to the floor. If you find that your foot is hovering, flex your foot so it's easier to bring your heel to the mat. Then pull the left shoulder or the left knee to the left shoulder. And again, hang out here for a minute just so you feel that external rotation. Just a little opening through the inner rough thigh. Big inhale. If your knee is bent, go ahead and straighten your leg. Exhale, right leg across the body to the left. Same thing as before, just make sure that your shoulder stays down. I have to kind of wiggle my right shoulder over first. Left arm up parallel to your shoulder. Maybe you cactus it. Right hand on the outside of your left thigh to twist. Maybe you look towards your left arm. Maybe you look up to you. Big breaths. One more. On your next inhale, unwind back to center. Bring both of your knees into your chest. Go ahead and rock side to side. Maybe make some circles. If it feels okay on your spine, you can go ahead and wrap your elbows around your knees. Pull them in tight. Bring your forehead to your knees. Teeny tiny yogi ball shape. As you are ready, slowly release. If you want one little bit of hip opening here, you can come into happy baby, grabbing either the big toe or the pinky toe sides of your feet. Totally up to you. If you can't quite get your feet, you can always hug the backs of your thighs into your chest instead. Just make sure that if part of your spine needs to lift, let it be your tailbone instead of your head and your shoulders. Do feel free to pretend to be a happy baby, to straighten out your legs. You're welcome to rock side to side. You can be still if you prefer still. Let's just take 2 more big breaths. And then from here, gently releasing the legs. If there are any other last minute stretches that you would enjoy, take them. Otherwise, trying to extend those legs out long. Heels in, toes out. You can bring your feet as wide as the mat is wide. Maybe your hands stay on your belly, maybe one on the belly, one on the heart. Arms can come by your sides, palms face up to you. Keep the gaze at the ceiling. If you want some hip opening, pads of the feet touch, knees open to the sides of the room. Wherever you end up, wiggle your shoulder blades in a bit closer. Let your chin tuck to your throat and start to close down your eyes. You might turn the lights down or off if that's better for you here. And big, deep exhale out your mouth. Let all your air go. Inhale through your nose. Out through your mouth. And then slowly start to let your breath just come back to normal. Don't think about it too much. And let yourself rest. I'll let you know when it's time to get up. If you would like to take more time to rest, go ahead and log off here. Give yourself that extra time. If you are ready to get moving, you're ready to get up, slowly draw your awareness back to your breath. Big inhales through your nose, out through your nose. You're welcome to start to wiggle your fingers, wiggle your toes. You might twist out wrists, twist out ankles, maybe rock your head side to side. You are welcome to give yourself a full body stretch, to the arms above the head, maybe kind of wiggle side to side, banana a little bit. As you are ready, slowly finding your way into a comfortable seat. You might roll to one side in a fetal position first. You might rock up and down the spine. Either way, whatever makes you feel most comfortable. When you find a comfortable seat, thank you, Julia. Ankles crossed is an option. You're welcome instead to bring pads of the feet to touch. If you prefer to sit your hips on your shins, that's fine. Or sit on your shins, hips on heels. And from here, when you find a seat, hands to your knees, sit nice and tall, stack your shoulders above your hips. Take a big inhale through your nose. Out through your mouth. Again, inhale through your nose. Out through your mouth. Flutter your eyes open. Hands to heart center. If you would like to, hands at Namaskara, Anjali Mudra. The light within me bows to and acknowledges the light within each of you. Namaste.